Hello and welcome to today's edition of Business Basics. My name is Lee Iben. I'm the head coach here at Action Coach Campus. We're a business coaching firm located right here in Iowa City. And every day we try to speak with at least one business owner locally. And today my special guest, of course, is Mark Ginsberg with MC Ginsberg Objects of Art down on Washington Street. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. I'm flattered to be on.
Oh, well, Mark, you and I, we mentioned it beforehand. You and I have a history of almost 40 years. We go way back, and it's great to hear your perspective because the roads that you have traveled are definitely worth sharing with, especially new business owners, but really anybody in business who might feel like they're missing that missing piece. And so let's jump right in and talk first of all about community service and giving back to community and why, because that's a passion. It's not just something you feel obligated to do, Mark. It's a passion of yours. So let's talk about that a little bit, can we?
I think that I take my cues not only from my own family, my father and my mother, but Plato, who said that if we take from those around us, our community, our state, our country, that we're ethically and morally bound to give something back. And some practice that more than others. And, I could do more, I'm sure. But the balance is bottom line versus how do I improve my community, my state, my country, my globe. And so I think I've followed that inner voice for the last 40 years. And that's what's driven me, mostly to brand myself as a social capitalist or a philanthropic capitalist. And I want to keep capitalist in there because it's not purely without a profit motive, but there are more important things than the bottom line.
I agree. I mean, and I've mentioned this on another podcast that we've had before too. It's when we get into owning a business, of course we want to make money. That's the nature of business, but that's not the driving force, and it necessarily shouldn't be the driving force. It is that giving back to our community, making our entire community a richer place for all of us to live and raise families. Your passion, of course, has been the arts. Even in your name, I don't think it says jewelry store anywhere in your name. It's
we dropped jewelry from our title in 1987 when we bought the building in downtown Iowa City.
Yeah. And you've had jewelry in your blood for a long time, almost your whole life, right?
I like to say that I've been a circus freak this is 4 generations now. So it's been in my DNA. And now with my daughter and I working together, that's the 5th. And my granddaughter, who is now 2, almost 3, that's the 6th. Who knows if we'll have a life beyond the 4th, but we'll see.
Right. But and it's exciting when that second generation comes into play into our family businesses. That's enriching within itself, isn't it?
Well, I think so. My dad used to tell me, and he's not the only one, the first generation grows, the second generation sustains, the third generation kills the business. So I like to think of myself as the 4th generation all over again, so yeah. I am the first and my daughter would be the second of that first 3. So right. Even though literally I'm the 4th generation of this family in this jewelry business, we've gone a completely different path.
Well, but it's interesting though. So 4th generation, I get that, but you've made some significant changes to your brand when you took over the reins.
Yes, I have. And most of that deals with not vertically looking at myself as just a jewelry store. And I think by doing that, it's allowed me to broaden what I appeal to or what I'm able to achieve, or my goals are fluid. And when I say fluid, most people are able to predict their operating expenses, their rent and their labor and advertising, insurance, things like that. For us, even though most of that's predictable, our direction has gone everywhere from custom design jewelry to biomedical tooling and consumer products. And we found that there was an intersection between the bench jeweler and the mechanics of making a piece of jewelry and creating a distractor for vertebra surgeries. So we went down a completely different path, and we built our 2nd and 3rd floors to become a working studio, gallery, manufacturing, advanced design space.
Love it. I just love that. And Mark, so going back 33 years ago now, so you were at a different location over at Sycamore Mall for years, and then you and your family decided to purchase that building downtown. But when you made that purchase, there were already two existing jewelry stores on the same street on the same block, and we talk about, all three families are doing well, but we have to, as business owners, define and be able to share in some way, shape, or form our uniqueness, and
Right.
that's what attracts people.
So my art, my theater, my drama is unique to Bill Nussers, it's unique to Terry Dickens. Each of them have their own art, their own families, and their own inner voices, and I respect that. My actual belief is that while I brand myself and people know me and know my family as a jewelry store, that's really not who I am, and I don't want that to define me. So my alter ego and personality of this space is completely different from a jewelry store. So would I characterize them as competitors? Anybody that draws from the market, whether it's a travel agent, whether it's another jewelry store or a fine clothing store, they all draw away from the retail part of what I do. What my challenge was as a business was trying to figure out what makes us unique. And if you can walk into my 600 square feet of retail space and buy a piece of jewelry or find something beautiful to hang on an intimate space, a human body, that's your sculpture, that's your definition. But if you're a researcher in orthopedics at the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics, and you're doing research and the research slowed down because large farmers aren't helping you get to their goal, and we can produce a disc for cadaver insertions or animal insertions, and we can do 40 of those to the one that a Medtronics perhaps does in 18 months, we can do 40 in a month. Why not keep the reiteration of the research and the projects going? In addition, we're able to straddle, so I'm not walking away from jewelry and custom design and beautiful objects of art, but I'm combining the talents that exist in this space. So that's what's defined us as a unique space for design, manufacturing, custom design, prototypes.
Well, that's a beautiful way to look at that, because the advantage I think we have as business owners is that we are not limited in our creativity on the things that we're passionate about. If we own one business and we find another opportunity that opens up, we can jump on it. I love that.
Well, look, you've taken advantage of yourself. You know the history of magic. You know what magic does in people's lives, whether it's literal or whether it's figurative, and what you can do to broaden that. If you stayed in that narrow silo, what would have become of your life as an actor, a performer, somebody who digs deeper into the soul of a business or a human being? Those have become your magic, and you've been able to take what you learned historically and apply that broadly to life. And so I'm trying not to get bored. It's too short. Life, we found out, especially this year, that life is shorter than we'd like it to be.
Yes.
So why bore ourselves?
Yeah, exactly, Mark. So how has COVID-19 impacted your store?
Well, I have to say, we started over this year. I call it my Act Two. Up through, I would say, September of 2020, I had 9 or 10 employees, full and part-time employees. Currently, on the floor, 9 or 10 employees, and then I had a back end, I had a shop, and I had an accountant, and that type of thing. But I still have a shop, I still have the accountant, but now it's just my daughter and I. And so we've gone from 9 down to 2. And I love it. I've really not had an opportunity to work directly with my daughter, and the evolution and the banter back and forth, maybe some sarcasm and irony, which I love, allows us to appreciate and expand this business in a way that I never imagined. And she brings a creativity and an eye that is distinct from mine. And if I don't get too egotistical or narcissistic about this business, it's going to grow and evolve, and she's going to be a big part of it. Her name is Lizzie, and she's got a little girl, my first grandchild, And it's a whole new direction and look on my own life, as well as the life that I live here professionally. But I want it to be fun for both of us. I want it to be something that she looks forward to coming to, and we don't play around with different types of personalities, because we can get angry with each other and expand our horizons as opposed to shrink back and go into our separate corners. So I really love this, and we're open by appointment, and that will stay even post-pandemic. We don't imagine opening up differently anymore. We want the experience to be intimate. We want to be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or water, whatever it is that trips your trigger, or go up to our rooftop, sit outside and watch the sunrise or the moon set. So I think we've become a little more romantic, or a lot more romantic, about the approach that we're taking. And we want people to feel comfortable with that.
Wow. That's terrific. I mean, we have seen so many, okay, there's been a lot of bad, no denying, with COVID-19, but we have evolved as humans in the way that we interact with each other. And what a beautiful way to take this pandemic and make it evolve for you at your location, because you are redefining the personal buying experience. I mean, to the nth degree. This is, I mean, obviously you can afford to do that. I mean, you don't need massive amounts of people coming to that front door every day.
Look, after a while, the business matures. If you pay attention to the bottom line, if you pay attention to your operating expenses, if you pay attention to how much money you've borrowed over the years, and you methodically pay those things back, we're in a position right now where the business has matured. We've parked some dollars. We are staying on top of our accounts payable. It's easy for operations to get out of hand. It's easy to overpay a staff and keep that going, trying to be a nice person. But also, I think for us, making sure that there's a perpetual motion here, and a less of a reliance on keeping the door open for walk-in traffic. If I'm really going to be honest, nobody needs what I'm selling relative to jewelry. It's an emotional expression. And without that expression, and without the emotion behind it, it's just a lump of gold or platinum or silver. It's nothing. So once we give meaning to something, it becomes art. And once we put it on an intimate space, it becomes a sensual art. It becomes something that's romantic, like a photograph. So I like to look at what we have and what we represent as, I'm going to teach you how to collect. And if it trips you, then you'll acquire it and you'll continue to collect. Someday, something that you wore, or your mother or your father wore, or your grandfather wore, may be on your body or your child's body or your grandchild's body. And that's something that tells a story. And we are storytellers. So this is a way of collecting that history in our lives and having something physical to show for it. That's what jewelry means to me. But it's not just a lump of metal. It can't be.
No, it can't be. You're exactly right. Do we need it? No. But does it enrich our life? You better believe it. I mean, whether it's jewelry or a painting, again, same deal, right? The canvas is nothing but cotton. The oil on the canvas is nothing but oil paint. But
yeah, you're right. I'm reminded of the Big Bang episode where Penny gave Sheldon the napkin from Leonard Nimoy, and he just melted because it had Leonard Nimoy's DNA on it. So, I mean, the metaphor to me is that this has a little bit of your grandmother's perfume, or a little bit of your grandma's DNA on the inside of the ring, or on the outside from cooking and Thanksgiving and Christmases and things like that. Same thing with your father's watch on the leather strap. And, you know, we have part of our history that we're able to wear. Very few things. And you can't really do it with clothing. You can't do it with a dresser. You can't do it with a couch. But a piece of jewelry is intimate.
Well, you've opened up Pandora's box here, Mark, because this cycles right back to our community service and giving back, because so much of that giving back, that emotional attachment to our ancestors, I feel is being lost in today's youth, but in our communities as well. We need to continually strive to reinforce those values to those people around us, because you're right. These objects of art are important. The paintings that we have in our home, I've got some from local artist Alan Weinstein. I've got some of my own. Now they're in my children's homes. And at some point when I'm gone, right, my grandkids can actually go up and touch that and go, my grandpa's hands did this, or they can take a piece of your jewelry and they can hold it in their hand, and these emotions will come flooding back. But we have to continually educate.
What do you call that? Personification? When it's with an animal, that human characteristic is anthropomorphism. But when we do it to an inanimate object, it automatically or it takes on a life that is animate now. So that painting, that sculpture, that work of art that's on a finger or a neck, all of a sudden takes on a personality that it didn't have before somebody owned it.
Right. And it's a different personality based upon the wearer.
Right. Absolutely. So you're able to dress it up or down. It's a play that changes constantly. And I would call them one act plays. Every act, every individual that it's passed down to tells a different story. And it's like the never ending story parable, everybody adds on to it year in, year out, generation after generation. And going back to the millennials, I think we become more sterilized to life and I think it goes back to the malls and the invention of the malls. It took people off the street. It put them in a tin can, or it put them in an environment with no windows, and it was a Hollywood set. It wasn't real. And those environments turn me off. I want to be able to smell the air. I want to be able to see people on the street. I want to know that I'm in Iowa City, Iowa, or Kittabali, or Paris, or LA, or some other small town. If I'm in a mall, I have no clue where I am on this planet.
Right.
So why would you want that if you don't have to? But if you grow up with it, and then you take that ripples out to then the advent of the internet and social media, and no longer do we talk or touch face to face. I can't hold a hand anymore. I can't forget the pandemic, but touch a hand, or everything is sterile. Everything is antiseptic. Yeah. So I don't know that I blame millennials. I might blame those who invented these environments that we thought that would connect us more, have disconnected us more. So maybe I am going the way of the dodo. Maybe both of us are. Maybe, we are becoming extinct in a way, but I hope not. And I hope that I can pass this kind of show for life, or a desire for life, to my daughter and all my children.
Exactly. Well, and you nailed it, because as a performer, there is no greater feeling than that emotion you feel back from your audience. And in so many ways, in what you do, that emotion that you evoke when you bring out that, whatever it is, a bracelet, a necklace, a ring, it doesn't matter, but you listen to your customer, and you understand your customer, what drives them. If they came in because they saw an ad that you had in the Hampshire Playbill, you kind of know the space that they're in. If they went to a performance of the Nutcracker, or they went to go see Hamilton or something like that, you know what kind of person they might tend to be, and through questioning you get to know them better, and then you're able to fill that need.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm going to show you an example of something that is, it kind of hits home. I don't know if you can see what this is.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I can see it.
Okay. So this is a 2-year-old's heart that was taken off of a MR image. And the doctor's insurance doesn't cover this kind of 3D printing. But the doctors who were working on this patient asked us if we would be able to print it so that they could pre-game the operation. In a sense. And we said we would, and they said we have no funding for it. And so we printed it no charge, and we gave it to them. So the interesting thing for me was, not only were they able to take this model of this 2-year-old, but they were able to see something, an anomaly in this 2-year-old that they didn't see in the MRI. When the father saw this, the surgery, by the way, was successful. This was 5 years ago.
Okay.
He wanted a pair of cufflinks made of his daughter's heart.
Wow.
So we made cufflinks. We scaled it down, obviously, made cufflinks. And he said, I'm truly wearing my daughter's heart on my sleeve. So
wow. Wow. That's beautiful.
That's when it gets emotional.
Yeah.
And that's the broadening of straddling the lines between the science, the art, the combination of the two, and the fact that neither one of us are going to define ourselves by a title. We don't want to do that. We just want to be human.
Right. And we want to live the essence of humanity.
Hopefully. I mean, we're all fallible. We might be demigods. We're not gods. But, you know,
I think so.
we're prone to mistake. And we'll continue to reiterate our lives in perpetuity. And I think the sculptor, I was reading one of his books, and he said it's important in life to have a task, something that gets you out of bed, something that gets you into a different space and thinking creatively. But it's got to be something you can never possibly finish.
Right. Right.
So you've got the future generations that hopefully will take maybe the good bits of your life, and my life, all of our lives, of people that we've crossed and love, and they'll reiterate that. They won't demolish it, they won't destroy it, but they will deconstruct it and build it in their own voice.
Right.
And that's what I hope for the children that I have, grandchildren. I'm sure you hope the same.
Oh, of course I do. So tell me how succession planning, tell me how this is going with Lizzie. You know what? We're both of the age to where we're looking at our kids maybe taking over someday. And yet there's that internal tussle, right? It's like, oh, how are you faring with that? How's it going?
I have to be honest I've gotten psychological help to help me get beyond this. So I have a psychologist that's talking me through the different successive stages. And it's almost like, at first when you get the news, it's angry. And then you go through denial, or maybe it's denial and then anger. And then eventually you get to acceptance.
Right.
I think those emotions are real when you're stepping back from something that you've been doing for 4/6 of your life. And that's, 2/3 of your life. And you start beginning to think about, what else do I want to do? Do I want to walk the Pacific Crest Trail? Do I want to watch the sunrise in the Boundary Waters? Do I want to go kayaking or fly? Whatever it is that trips you, other than what you've been doing for the last 40 years. And then maybe see the failures and successes of the next generation are pleasing as well. I don't think you can occupy a space in perpetuity. And I've seen my grandfather and my uncles. My father died he was young, he was 57. And that's the reason I came back in 84. But when I look at how short his life was and what he dedicated it to was his professional life, his work life. I don't want that to happen. So I can say that, by appointment helps me step back. It helps my daughter step in. If she decides at some point she wants to open the doors and allow walk-in traffic and not appointment only, so be it. That's her decision. For me right now, it helps me manage the next phase.
And that's so true. I mean, we're so busy our entire lives raising families, running our businesses. And then we get to that point to where all of a sudden, okay, the kids are all grown up, they're gone. And now all of a sudden my business is going really well. And I don't necessarily have to be there all the time. What am I going to do now?
Yeah. Well, I always wanted to buy a sailboat. So, who knows? I don't know what tomorrow. To me, sometimes just chopping wood, getting out in the woods, chopping wood, stacking logs, rotisserie something on the open fire. It's exciting. I mean, that's fun. That's a Zen. That's a meditative moment for me. And I've become a lot more philosophical at this age than I ever imagined I would.
Yes. Well, I think that goes with the territory. You've seen a lot and you have a lot to pass on. So, hey, Mark, real quick, before we head up, tell me what's the one bit of advice you would give to a business owner today?
Um, the one thing I try to tell my children is not everything is good around the corner. And so if you can figure out and try to be realistic and anticipate what might happen next, that may not always be a positive proforming of what's going to happen, so that you can accept failure when it hits you and not be destroyed by it. And you will hit failure, you will hit stumbling blocks, and the ability to get back up and continue to grow the business, not putting all your eggs in one basket, that kind of anticipation. So don't sink your life's story at 26, where everything you have, or at 30 or at 35. Save something for failure. Save a little bit for failure, and anticipate that it will happen at some point.
Right, right. The truer words. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Hey, don't go away. I'm gonna wrap this up real quick.
I'm not plugged into a battery, and it just came up that my battery.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Well, no, we're good timing. All right, hang on a second. Don't go away. Hey, so my special guest today, again, Mark Ginsberg with MC Ginsberg Objects of Art, downtown Iowa City on Washington Street, by appointment only. So if you want to stop in, and I encourage you to do so because it's a fascinating place to visit. But talk to Mark, talk to his daughter, Lizzie, but get a hold of them.
Phone number and how to
Please
get a hold
do.
of us.
Yes,
So
would you?
Our phone number is 319-351-1700. You can reach us at info at mcginsberg.com, and that way you can request an appointment, or you can just email me, Mark at mcginsberg.com, or Lizzie, Lizzie. And we are putting more and more on our webpage. I realize that's not as much fun as coming in, but you can come in and also order on the web, but it's mcginsberg.com/shop. And if you want to see what we're doing with advanced design and manufacturing, it's mcginsberg.com/Adam, ADAM, advanced design and manufacturing. So that's a lot. Maybe you've written it down.
No, it's good. No, it's a lot. And you know what? And back to that human touch again, Mark. So yeah, put more stuff on the website. People, it will tickle their fancy, but it does not substitute holding the item in your hand.
While you're nesting right now, have some fun looking at what we have on our website. And
and we lost Mark. So I'll just wrap this up real quick. Again, Mark Ginsberg with MC Ginsberg Objects of Art, downtown Iowa City on Washington Street. And unfortunately, his battery died on his laptop, but we will get this out. Mark, thank you again today for being our special guest. We certainly appreciate it.